Have you ever wondered, what's the first thing you think of when you open your eyes in the morning? Worry, exhaustion, or maybe a spark of hope in a world that constantly changes? Will you choose to begin your day with fear or with unshakable faith in something that never changes? Imagine this. What if a single psalm could give you the strength to stand firm all day long? No matter how many storms rise around you, would you start your day with it? Psalm 27 is not just a scripture, it's a declaration of courage, a bold affirmation of trust in God's presence, power, and protection. It reminds us that no matter what trials come our way, God remains our light and salvation. Every morning when you wake up, what do you choose? Faith or fear? Do you open your eyes and see the leftover anxieties of yesterday? Or do you see the fresh mercies of God for today? Those first few moments after waking up can set the tone for everything that follows. Psalm 27 invites you to begin your day not in panic, but in trust, not in confusion, but in courage. The psalmist writes, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" In that single sentence, every shadow of doubt is dismissed. Light chases away darkness. Salvation drives out despair. Strength overcomes weakness. And this is what Psalm 27 proclaims. Before life rushes in like a flood, before the enemy whispers his lies, before the world tries to shake your peace, this psalm lifts your soul to higher ground. God is not a distant observer. He is your defender. He is not an occasional helper. He is your eternal refuge. David, the writer of this psalm, understood what it meant to be chased by enemies, to face danger, to endure rejection and loneliness. Yet his trust in God never wavered. He didn't say, "Maybe the Lord will save me." No, he boldly declared, "The Lord is my light and my salvation." That's the boldness of true faith, the kind of confidence that can transform not just your mornings, but your entire life. So before your feet touch the floor, let Psalm 27 be on your lips. Let it be the banner you carry into your day. Instead of waking up to worry, wake up to worship. Instead of dreading the unknown, declare the truth. The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? The world may shake, but God's word stands firm. Let your first thought each morning not be about trouble, but about triumph. Because if God is your light, your salvation, and your stronghold, what do you truly have to fear? We wake up in a world filled with uncertainty. News headlines overflow with war, division, and crisis. Economies fluctuate. Relationships are tested, and personal struggles seem never-ending. We never know what the day might bring, a difficult conversation, an unexpected problem, or a challenge we feel completely unprepared for. But Psalm 27 anchors us in something far more secure than the shifting sands of this world. It points us to the unshakable foundation of God's presence and promises. The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? Stronghold is a place of refuge, a fortress built to withstand attack. In ancient times, cities were surrounded by strongholds to protect themselves from invading armies. But David wasn't placing his trust in stone walls, he trusted in the living God. And that same God is our refuge today. Even when everything around us feels uncertain, God remains the same. He is never surprised by what we face. He doesn't panic in the face of difficulty. He is steady, unmoved, and sovereign over all things. That's why beginning your day with Psalm 27 is so powerful. It's not just a habit, it's an act of war against fear. It's a decision to plant your feet firmly in truth. Picture yourself stepping into the world filled with peace, while others are overwhelmed by fear. While the world trembles, you walk in quiet strength. While others doubt, you stand in faith. You don't have to be ruled by the headlines, the uncertainties of tomorrow, or the quiet fears that try to sneak into your heart. You have a fortress that cannot be shaken, and that fortress is the Lord Himself. Before you scroll the news, before you hear the voice of war, listen to the voice of truth. Let Psalm 27 speak over your day, because when God is your stronghold, no storm can uproot you, no trouble can unbalance you, and no fear can steal your peace. Fear is a thief, but faith is a fortress. Every day, fear tries to find its way into our hearts. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what tomorrow might hold. It often begins in the quietest moments, whispering doubts before the day even begins. But Psalm 27 gives us the weapon we need to fight back. It reminds us that fear has no power where faith in God stands strong. David asked, "Whom shall I fear? Of whom shall I be afraid?" And this wasn't the voice of a man without problems. David faced real enemies, real threats, real danger. But he refused to let fear rule him. Why? Because he knew that God's presence was greater than any opposition he would face. His confidence wasn't in his own strength, but in the unshakable power of the Lord. That David didn't live in a world free from chaos, he lived in the middle of it. He was pursued by kings, betrayed by friends, and left alone in the wilderness. And yet, even in caves and deserts, he lifted his voice in confidence, not because the danger disappeared, but because his God never did. That's the kind of unwavering trust Psalm 27 invites us into. And what about you? Maybe your enemies aren't armies, but the anxiety that creeps in silently. Maybe your battlefield isn't physical, but emotional, facing rejection, carrying the weight of expectations, walking through broken relationships, or wrestling with the unknown. Psalm 27 isn't for people who have everything together. It's for those who are holding on to God when everything else feels like it's falling apart. That's why these words aren't just poetic, they're practical. They are survival tools for the soul. They teach us how to rise when we feel crushed, how to walk when we feel paralyzed, and how to speak truth when lies surround us. Imagine waking up tomorrow, not with dread, but with declaration. Imagine standing in front of a challenge and saying, "Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. Not because you are strong, but because God is with you." That's what it means to live Psalm 27, not just read it, not just memorize it, but let it shape how you face each day. In a world where fear markets itself as wisdom and anxiety feels like a normal part of life, Psalm 27 calls us back to a higher truth. That faith is not naive, it is courageous. It's not the absence of danger, it's the presence of a defender. So before your next worry has a chance to speak, let Psalm 27 speak first. Before fear knocks on the door of your mind, let faith answer. Let these words be the anthem of your life. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? When you step into the unknown, you're not walking alone. When the storm rages, you're not unprotected. When your strength fails, His remains. You may be shaken, but your foundation will not crumble. That's the promise. That's the power. That's the peace that Psalm 27 offers. So carry it with you, not just in the morning, but through every hour, in the quiet moments, in the chaotic ones, in the middle of meetings, heartbreaks, hospital rooms, or heavy decisions. Let it echo in your heart, because faith is not just for Sundays. It's for Mondays when everything feels like too much. It's for Wednesday nights when sleep won't come. It's for Fridays when good news feels far away. Psalm 27 is your compass, your comfort, your cry of victory in the middle of battle. Let it be more than ink on a page. Let it be the truth you live and breathe. Fear has a familiar pattern that exaggerates everything. It turns small hills into towering mountains. It magnifies the problem instead of magnifying the God who is bigger than any problem. But faith builds a fortress around your heart. When you start your morning with Psalm 27, you are making a clear choice. I will not live in fear today. I will walk by faith. I will trust in the Lord, my stronghold and my salvation. Just imagine how different your day might be if, instead of letting fear have the first word, you let faith speak first. What if, instead of dreading what might go wrong, you declare that God is in control? What if, instead of running from the battle, you faced it knowing the Lord is fighting for you? That is the power of Psalm 27. It shifts your focus from the size of your fear to the greatness of your God. It reminds you that no enemy, no difficulty, no uncertainty is greater than the Lord who walks beside you. Let faith rise. Let the fortress of trust in God stand tall. Fear may come knocking, but if your heart is anchored in the Lord, it has nowhere to stay. Psalm 27 wasn't written for those who have it easy. It was written for those in the midst of the storm, those facing battles bigger than themselves, those needing solid ground when the world is shaking. David wrote, "Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, yet I will be confident." What kind of confidence is that? Not self-help optimism, not bravado. It is a bold, immovable trust in the living God. David didn't deny the reality of the battle. He simply refused to let the battle define him. His trust in God was greater than his opposition, Doc. So how do you respond when adversity comes? When plans fall apart? When people walk away? When the way forward is unclear? Do you panic or do you press into God's presence? Psalm 27 teaches you as that trust is a choice. Every morning you decide, will I step into today with fear or faith? Will adversity pull me from God or push me closer to Him? Trust isn't built on what we see, but on who God is. And He is faithful. He is powerful. He is the stronghold that never fails, Doc. So when the battle comes, don't retreat. Stand firm. When enemies surround you, don't give in. Lift your eyes to the one who fights for you. You are not alone. There are moments when we feel abandoned. Even those closest to us might not understand what we carry. We face invisible battles, hidden burdens, silent fears. The enemy whispers, "You're forgotten." But Psalm 27 says otherwise. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will take me in. Let that sink in. Parental love is among the strongest on earth. Yet David understood even if that love fails, God's love never will. His presence is constant. His love is unshakable. His faithfulness never changes. When loneliness attacks, remember, the God who created the universe stands beside you. He sees every tear. He walks every mile with you. You may feel rejected, but you are chosen. His presence doesn't depend on how you feel. It rests on His eternal promise. So tomorrow morning, remind yourself, I am never alone. Before the world sows doubt, let Psalm 27 plant faith. Before fear speaks lies, let God's word speak truth. You are mine, no matter who walks away, no matter who misunderstands you, no matter how lonely the road may feel, the Lord will take you in. And that alone is enough. That each morning when we wake up, we are met with choices. Before we even get out of bed, the noise of the world comes rushing in. Notifications buzz. Emails start piling up. Yesterday's worries creep back into our minds. And the day's demands begin to crowd our thoughts. It's almost automatic, isn't it? We reach for our phones, scroll through headlines, or check our messages before we've even taken a deep breath. But Psalm 27 gently calls us to a different rhythm, a better rhythm, a holy rhythm. Before we do anything else, we are invited to seek the presence of God, not out of obligation, but out of desire, not because it's one more item on our to-do list, but because it's where our hearts find rest before the noise of life begins. David wrote in verse 4, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in His temple." Let that sink in. David, warrior, king, leader, had many responsibilities. He had every reason to ask for strength, victory, protection, or peace. But he asked for none of those first. The one thing he desired above all else was to be with God. He didn't chase riches or comfort. He didn't crave power or recognition. He longed for one thing, God's presence. Why? Because he understood something most of us forget in the rush of life. Nothing else satisfies the soul like being with the Lord. What if we lived like that? What if we reordered our mornings, not around urgency, but around intimacy? What would change if, instead of reaching for our phones, we reached for the Word of God? If we opened our hearts before we opened our inboxes? What if, before the pressure of performance kicked in, we paused in surrender? Seeking God first doesn't mean neglecting responsibilities. It means anchoring your heart before navigating your schedule. It means declaring with your actions, "Lord, I need you more than I need control." No amount of preparation, hustle, or problem solving can replace the wisdom and peace that come from sitting in God's presence. Psalm 27 reminds us to realign our priorities, because when God is first, everything else finds its place. When you begin your day with Him, you enter with assurance instead of anxiety. You face problems with faith instead of panic. You stop chasing what fades and start pursuing the one who is eternal. Let this be your quiet prayer each morning. "Lord, before I do anything else, I seek you. Before I make a decision, I ask for your wisdom. Before I face the world, I rest in your presence. We live in a culture that glorifies independence. We are constantly taught to rely on ourselves, to be strong on our own, to push through difficulties by sheer willpower. But let's be honest, eventually, we all hit a wall. There comes a moment when our own strength isn't enough. The weight is too heavy. The path is too unclear. The pressure is too great. That's where Psalm 27 meets us again. David declares in verse 1, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" A stronghold is more than just protection. It's a fortified place of safety, where the enemy cannot reach. David had real enemies. He fought lions and bears. The wilderness. He faced a giant with a sling and a few stones. He fled from King Saul, who hunted him relentlessly. He didn't just know danger, he lived in the middle of it. But through it all, David's strength didn't come from within. It wasn't in his skill or courage. It came from God's presence. And that's the truth we often forget we were. Never meant to carry life's burdens alone. Yet how often do we try? We fight battles in our own strength, carry stress like armor, and face challenges with clenched fists. Then we wonder why we feel exhausted, anxious, overwhelmed. Psalm 27 reminds us we don't have to do this on our own. The same God who stood with David in caves and in courts stands with you today in your workplace, in your home, in your heartbreak, in your healing. The same God who upheld David in his wilderness moments upholds you when your soul is weary. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't enter the day with your fists clenched. Enter it with your hands open. Don't rely on yourself, rely on Him. Don't lean on your understanding, lean into His wisdom. Don't carry the world's weight on your shoulders, place it in His hands. Because when the Lord is your stronghold, you don't have to be afraid. When He is your strength, you cannot be shaken. And when He is your source, you will have what you need to face whatever lies ahead. Still, there's something deeper in all of this. Beneath our busyness and beneath our worries, there is a longing in every human heart, a hunger that nothing in this world can satisfy. We try to fill it with success, money, entertainment, relationships. But no matter what we achieve or attain, there's always something missing. Have you ever felt that quiet ache inside when everything is going fine, but your soul still feels empty? David understood that ache, and he knew where it pointed. Him, again, in verse 4, he says, "One thing I have asked of the Lord, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in His temple." David had seen military victories. He'd worn the crown. He'd held power, and yet his greatest longing wasn't for glory or fame, but to dwell with God. Not visit occasionally, not meet on Sundays, but dwell, abide, remain, live continually in His presence. What if we desired God that way? What if our greatest pursuit wasn't promotion or popularity, but presence? You see, to dwell with God doesn't mean isolating yourself in a church building. It means walking through life with Him at the center. It means involving Him in your thoughts, your decisions, your joys, and your sorrows. It means saying every morning, "Lord, more than anything else, I want to know You today." The world offers distraction, but only God offers fulfillment. The world gives noise, but only God gives peace. The world fades, but God remains. So what are you seeking today? Make it your prayer each morning, Lord, let me dwell in your presence. Let me see your beauty. Let me walk with you today, because in his presence we find everything our souls truly need. Peace, purpose, direction, strength, not temporary. Relief, but lasting refuge. And in this life, no one is exempt from difficulty. Trouble finds everyone eventually, whether it's the sting of unexpected loss, the ache of a broken relationship, the weight of financial burdens, a sudden illness, or an invisible spiritual battle that leaves us drained and discouraged. There are seasons when the storms of life seem relentless, when one wave hasn't passed before another crashes in, when our hearts feel exposed and vulnerable, aching for shelter, longing for a safe place to breathe again. That's when Psalm 27 speaks with powerful clarity. God himself is our refuge. He is not just a helper from a distance. He is our shelter, our hiding place. Right in the middle of the storm, David, who knew trouble intimately, declared in verse 5, "For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock." These aren't poetic exaggerations, they are battle-tested truths. They are the testimony of a man who had run for his life, taken refuge in caves, lived among enemies, and felt the weight of constant pressure. Through it all, David learned this. Safety isn't found in walls or armies, it's found in God's presence. And we need that same refuge today. When anxiety rises and the weight of responsibilities feel too much, when fear presses in and we're unsure how to move forward, there is a place to run. And that place is not found in distractions or denial. It is not found in productivity or possessions. It is found in God alone. But here's the truth. A shelter only protects those who choose to step inside. A fortress offers no security if you remain outside its gates. That's why David didn't just believe in God's protection, he actively sought it. He positioned himself under the covering of God's presence. And we must do the same. Before we face the chaos of the day, we must step into the quiet of God's presence. We must cover our hearts in his word, surround our minds with his promises, and rest beneath the shadow of his wings. So when trouble comes, and it will, don't stand in the open storm, trying to weather it alone. Run to the one who offers refuge when fear whispers its lies. Don't argue with it in your strength. Let God hide you. Let his peace surround you. Let his presence lift you above the storm dotting him. You are not exposed, you are protected. In him, you are not forgotten, you are lifted high in him. The storm may rage, but you will stand firm. But there's something else Psalm 27 calls us to: waiting. And in our modern world, that's perhaps the hardest command of all that we live. In a culture of speed, we want answers now, solutions instantly, and blessings without delay. We are wired to expect immediate results and to grow impatient when they don't come. But God doesn't operate on human schedules. His ways are higher. His timing is perfect even when it doesn't feel that way. That's why Psalm 27 ends with such a strong, comforting command. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Waiting is not easy. It can be frustrating, even painful, especially when we've prayed and hoped and believed and still see no answer. We cry out for healing, for breakthrough, for resolution, and sometimes God says, wait. In those moments, doubt creeps in. The enemy whispers, has God forgotten you? Does he even care? Will he ever show up? But Psalm 27 tells a different story. It says waiting is not wasted time, it is sacred time. It's a time when God strengthens us, deepens our trust, and prepares us for what lies ahead. David knew this well. He had been anointed king as a young man, but he didn't wear the crown for years. Instead, he wandered in the wilderness, hiding from Saul, watching his life fall apart before it came together. He knew what it meant to wait on God not just for days, but for years. And yet, through all the delays, discouragements, and detours, he learned this unshakable truth. God is always working even when we cannot see it. Waiting on the Lord does not mean sitting idle. It means living with active trust. It means praying even when you don't feel like it. Worshiping even when you're weary. Choosing faith when fear feels more natural. It means holding on to God's promises even when the evidence seems to point the other way not. So if you're in a season of silence or delay, don't give up. Don't rush ahead. Don't trade your faith for frustration. Instead, strengthen your heart in the Lord. Hold on to what He has spoken. Keep seeking Him. Keep trusting Him. Because those who wait on the Lord will never be disappointed in His perfect time. He will move. He will answer. He will fulfill every word He has spoken over your life. And finally, Psalm 27 doesn't ignore the reality of the battlefield. Life isn't easy every day. We face internal and external battles, discouragement, temptation, insecurity, fear, shame. Disappointment, sometimes it feels like we're surrounded on every side. But David offers us one more picture of hope in verse 6. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Did you notice David is still surrounded? The enemies haven't gone away. The trouble hasn't vanished, and yet his head is lifted up. He chooses to worship in the middle of the battle. Victory in the life of faith isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of praise in the middle of it. David doesn't wait until the war is over to celebrate. He worships right in the midst of the chaos, because he knows something we're invited to know too. Our praise is a weapon. Our worship is an act of war against fear. It's a declaration of trust in the face of uncertainty, doubt. So if today you find yourself surrounded, lift your head, lift your eyes, lift your voice, because God is still with you. He is still worthy, and He will lift you above every storm. That David didn't say, I hope I make it through, or maybe God will show up. No, he made a bold declaration. My head shall be lifted up. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. This is not wishful thinking. This is not blind optimism. It is faith strong, certain, grounded in the character of God. David wasn't hoping for victory. He was proclaiming it. He wasn't unsure of the outcome. He was confident that God would bring him through. That's what faith does. It speaks before the breakthrough. It sings before the answer comes. It worships even while the enemy still surrounds. And David wasn't just talking about eventual relief. He was expressing a present confidence. And now praise, a heart that trusted God in the middle of the battle, not just after it ended. So what about you? Do you find yourself standing in the tension between the battle and the victory, between the prayer and the answer, between what you see and what you believe. Psalm 27 invites you to do what David did, to lift your head, even when you're surrounded, to worship even when the way forward isn't clear, to say, I will praise, not because of what's around you, but because of who is within you. So often, we walk through life already feeling defeated before we've even begun. We let fear speak louder than faith. We let past failures convince us that we don't have what it takes. We allow what went wrong before to dictate what we expect next. But Psalm 27 says, lift your eyes, look up, remember who fights for you. If God is for you, who can be against you? If He has already promised victory, why should you walk in fear? Victory is not the absence of the fight. It's the presence of God in the midst of it. It's walking through the fire and knowing you're not alone. It's hearing the taunts of the enemy and still choosing to sing. It's facing the giant and saying, my God is bigger. David had learned this over and over. He saw that his strength didn't come from within, it came from above. So when he said, my head shall be lifted up, he wasn't boasting in his ability, he was rejoicing in God's faithfulness. And when that victory comes, and it will come, David knew exactly what his response would be. Worship, not pride, not self-congratulation, but praise, because the glory would belong to the one who fought for him all along. Fear is a thief. It steals joy. It cripples courage. It whispers lies. It magnifies your problems while shrinking your perspective. It convinces you that you're alone, unworthy, incapable, defeated. But Psalm 27 begins with a declaration so powerful that it shuts fear down before it can even speak. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Light and darkness cannot coexist. The moment light enters a space, darkness vanishes. That's what happens when God steps into your situation. Fear flees in the presence of His light. Anxiety withers in the presence of His peace. David wasn't naive. He had been betrayed. He had fought real enemies. He had faced more danger than most of us ever will. And still he said, whom shall I fear? Not because his problems weren't real, but because his God was greater. Than what about you? What? Fears have tried to silence your song. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of never being enough. Whatever they are, they do not get the final word. Not when the Lord is your light, when His light shines in your heart. Fear loses its grip. It's exposed for what it really is, an empty threat, powerless in the presence of a sovereign God. And while fear may try to linger, it cannot stay where God's truth is spoken. But here's the key: you must stay in the light. You must return to it every day, not just once, not just when things get hard, every single day. You must declare, the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? You must flood your mind with His truth, so the lies of the enemy have no room to grow. You must renew your confidence in God's promises before fear has a chance to take root. So the next time fear rises in your heart, respond with this truth. The same God who was with David is with me. The same light that guided him guides me. And in the light of God's presence, darkness has no place. Walk boldly, walk in confidence, not because you're fearless, but because your God is faithful. But even the boldest faith faces silence. Sometimes that there are moments in life when we wonder, is God listening? We pray but no answer seems to come. We cry but heaven feels quiet. Our faith tells us to trust but our hearts ache for a response. And in those quiet moments, doubt creeps in. Does God hear me? Does He see what I'm going through? Does He still care? David understood those questions. And in Psalm 27:7, he writes, "Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me." This was not a polite, rehearsed prayer. It was raw, real, desperate. It was the cry of a man who knew that only God could help. And David knew something powerful God listens that think about this. David was a king, a warrior, a man after God's own heart. And yet, he didn't try to handle things alone. He didn't carry the burden in silence. He cried out, unashamed. UNRESCRVED. How often do we struggle in silence? How often do we carry burdens that God never asked us to bear alone? Psalm 27 reminds, US, you don't have to hold it in. You don't have to pretend to be strong. You don't have to wait until everything is under control. Cry out to Him. He hears you. Every whispered prayer, every desperate plea, every hidden tear. And not only does He hear, you can trust that He is already moving. Maybe you don't see it yet. Maybe the breakthrough hasn't come. But He is working behind the scenes. His timing is perfect. His answers are always good. And His love never fails that, so don't stop praying. Don't stop seeking. Don't stop knocking. Don't stop believing. The God who heard David hears you, and He is faithful to respond. And finally, one of the deepest fears many carry, the fear of being abandoned. Maybe you've been left by someone you trusted. Maybe you felt invisible in a crowd. Maybe you've asked, if people knew the real me, would they still stay? But in Psalm 27:10, David writes something that silences that fear for good. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will take me in. Even the deepest human relationships can fail. The love of a parent, which is meant to be steadfast, can fall short. People may walk away. Others may misunderstand. But God stays. He receives you. He embraces you. He never grows weary of you. He never changes His mind about you. He doesn't need you to be perfect. He just asks you to come close. When the world walks out, God walks in. When rejection shouts, you'll never be enough, God whispers, you are mine. So if today you feel unseen, remember, you are seen by the one who matters most. If you feel forgotten, He has never once taken His eyes off you. If you feel like no one would stay, He already has. You are not abandoned. You are not alone. You are accepted, embraced, and deeply loved. And that truth, that promise, it is more than enough that even if the closest people in your life were to walk away, God never will. His love is not conditional. His presence is not temporary. He is not like people who change their minds, break their promises, or grow distant. Over time, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. David knew what it felt like to be abandoned. He had been chased by kings, hunted like an outlaw, betrayed by friends, and misunderstood even by his own family. But despite the pain and the isolation, he clung to one unshakable truth. God had never left him, and that same promise holds true for you right now. Maybe you've walked through seasons where you felt completely unseen. Maybe you've silently wondered, has God forgotten me? Maybe the silence has been long enough that you've started to doubt. But Psalm 27 gives us a firm foundation to stand on when everything else feels uncertain. God is still with you. He has not abandoned you. He never will doubt when relationships fall apart. He remains close. When life feels unstable, He is steady. When everything around you changes, His love stays the same. So today, no matter what you're walking through, let this truth settle deep into your heart. You are never alone. The God who walked with David walks with you. The God who was faithful then is faithful now. And the God who never gave up on David will never give up on you. There is power in that kind of hope. That hope is more than wishful thinking. It's more than a vague feeling that things might get better. Hope is a confident expectation, rooted in the goodness of God. Hope gives strength when the struggle feels too heavy. It gives light when everything feels dark. It gives endurance when life becomes overwhelming. But here's the question. Where is your hope placed? If your hope is in people, they may disappoint. If your hope is in money, it may disappear. If your hope is in your circumstances, they will shift like sand. But Psalm 27 invites us to place our hope in the only one who never fails, our God. David declared in verse 13, I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Take a moment to notice the confidence in his words. He didn't say, I hope I might someday see God's goodness. He said, I believe I will. He wasn't wishing, he was trusting. He wasn't waiting until heaven to experience God's presence. He believed he would see God's goodness in this life. His hope wasn't built on fleeting emotions or changing conditions. His faith was anchored in the unchanging character of God. That same confidence is available to you right now. Whatever challenges you're facing, however long your battle has lasted, you can still choose to stand firm and say, I will see the goodness of the Lord in my life. But here's the key. You have to choose to believe. Faith is not about feeling great all the time. It's about holding on when everything says, let go. It's about trusting God's promises even when you can't see the outcome. It's about saying, I will see His goodness even before you do that. So today, right now, lift your head. Refuse to stay discouraged. Stand on the rock of truth that says, your God is good. He is working all things for your good. Your future is secure in His hands. The world may tremble, but your hope in Him is unshakable. That keep believing, keep trusting, keep pressing forward. Because just like David, you will see the goodness of the Lord in your life. Psalm 27 is not just a comforting poem. It's a declaration. It's a spiritual anthem. It's an anchor in a chaotic world that it reminds us that we are not defined by fear, but by faith. It shows us how to start each day not with dread, but with confidence, not with worry, but with worship, not with panic, but with purpose that it teaches. You have to see God first, not as an afterthought, but as our lifeline. It reminds us that God's presence is our shelter, His word is our shield, and His love is our safe place. That it calls us to stand firm, not in our strength, but in His. To wait patiently, not because waiting is easy, but because His timing is always perfect. That so as you step into your day, whatever it holds, let Psalm 27 be your foundation. When fear rises in your heart, say with conviction, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" When life feels too heavy to carry, remind yourself, He will hide me in His shelter in the day of trouble. When discouragement whispers, declare like David, "I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord," because you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not without hope. The same God who was faithful to David is faithful to you, so walk forward today not in fear, but in faith, not in confusion, but in confidence, not in weakness, but in the strength of the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Trust in His promises, and above all, never stop seeking Him. So now, as this reflection on Psalm 27 comes to a close, let this be the cry of your heart. I will seek Him first. I will fear no evil. I will trust when I can't trace. I will wait with worship, because the Lord is my light, my salvation, and my stronghold. If this message stirred something in you today, don't let it end here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and hit that subscribe button to join our family of faith and growth. Follow us for more soul-fueling content every week on Growth Mindset. Mastery, where your journey toward purpose, peace, and powerful living continues. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. And your breakthrough is closer than you think. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay anchored in the Word and walk boldly in His light.